We gotta be short on today's check-in because I got DC coming up in less than 30 minutes, just to let you know.
All right, man. Well, just wanted to check in with you. Thinking a lot about our conversations and what we do here on a daily basis and just kind of sales in general, right?
Mhm.
We've talked a lot about kind of strategies that we've, employ on a daily basis, whether it was canvassing or, getting ghosted or DCs or whatever it may be. But one of the things I was thinking about asking you was, I think as a salesperson, one of the most difficult things that we encounter is not so much being good at sales, not even, the strategic or tactical side of sales, but just kind of what keeps us going, the motivation behind it all, right? Like there's
Sure.
being in sales, there's really the real thing is burnout and kind of creating that momentum and having that motivation each day, staying disciplined and all that stuff. So what do you do kind of to kind of stay sharp and motivated and ready to go?
Well, let me ask you first, Ivan, do you feel burnt out? I'm not trying to throw this back at you. I'm just asking, do you feel burnt out personally?
At the moment, no.
Okay,
I think, the one of the best things about sales is that it's almost like a competition, right? And I think competitiveness is one of the things that breeds within us in this type of role, right? Because
sure.
we're not just checking boxes per se, right? There is a level of excitement that lives in sales, and I think that's why certain people thrive in it, why
Hmm.
we want to do
Hmm.
it, right? But, there are times too where you're just like, oh man, like this is a grind every day doing the same
Sure.
thing, to get some sort of
You
outcome.
know, for me personally, I think there's so much more going on in my personal life that sales and my job sort of becomes an escape. And I hate to put it that way. I do prioritize my family, but right now, I'm probably, if I were to be honest with myself, putting in the bare minimum 8 hours a day, right? Not going beyond that. I would like to, but currently my situation doesn't allow for that. So those are circumstances causing me to not feel burned out from the job. If I start feeling burnt out, it might be because of the personal issues I'm dealing with at home without sharing any details because we are recording this. It's medical issues, and I've told you a little bit about that. But if it weren't for that, it would probably creep up on me because I'd probably be working 60 hours a week, right? And actually, the reality is, I do probably spend time beyond that 8 hours at home doing research. Sometimes we have these conversations, and this sort of counts as work because it's related. We're talking about what we do, and it affects our job. But if it weren't for the circumstances, yeah, it would creep in because it'd be again like mundane rote tasks on a day-to-day basis, right? Um, you can come up with gimmicks to gamify the process to make it more fun. But if it weren't for, and even now, it's always going back to the why do you have a job, period, in the first place, right? To support my family, make a living. That's me. And that's probably a lot of people. And that's always what I look back to. And the reality is there aren't any better jobs in sales for my personality because it gives you a lot of freedom and you're in control of your success.
Yeah,
Obviously, we have to report to our managers and we have corporate accountability, but this is one of the few jobs other than starting your own business where, you build it for yourself.
yeah. Well, let me ask you, outside of the real why where most of us are here, right? Which is to take care of our families and all that kind of real talk, right? What is it about sales though, big picture that kind of excites you that creates, maybe a level of passion that maybe a more functional job doesn't provide? I know you said it gives you flexibility and things of that sort, but in the job, like what
Mhm.
milestone you're like, man, this is awesome. I like doing this. The
So,
prospecting, is it once you've actually talked to a client, once you're
mhm,
like, man, I feel like I'm actually helping, or man, I'm gonna make a big commission right now. Like what part of
sure,
it is it that you feel like satisfied?
sure. So prior to becoming a BPA, I had my own business, right? And so I leaned toward into entrepreneurship. And in this job, it's very entrepreneurial where, you have to figure things out quickly and efficiently. Now, obviously, the company is going to give us certain training and guidelines and tell you this is the way we typically do it. But at the end of the day, if you can show your closing deals, if you can show your activity, like collecting profiles we often talk about, then you're they're gonna let you do what you do as long as you're following the rules, right? You don't want to get yourself in trouble, but for the most part, they give you leeway. Like if you want to go do this through referral networking, you can do it through networking. Uh, Cold caller, you can sell ice to Eskimos. This is a highly relational sale, so people quickly sniff out untrustworthy people, and so you
Yeah,
have to be trustworthy and have integrity. But what I mean by that is also if you have good communication skills and you're good on the phone, that might be your forte, right? And there's people like that who are very successful here that do that. That's probably not my strong suit, but for me, it's more relationship building and networking and finding referrals. But so finding the right solution, the fastest way to reach your goals. And I'll be at the end of my third year in October, so I'm like, 2.5 years in, and I thought I would pick up on this a lot quicker, but it took me a couple years to. I think I'm just now figuring out how to schedule a ton of DCs because I
yeah.
have more DCs now on a regular basis than I have before, and it took me a while to figure out how do I create a system that allows me to, generate those appointments because I thought, hey, I can just go in and talk to one person at a time and close deals. It's not like that. It's a process, right? And you got to
Yeah.
figure that out.
Well, let me ask you this. So, you're right. Everyone's different in sales. We all approach this a little bit differently, and a lot of it is kind of that strategy is created by our personalities. You know, I'm a, it may not seem in the these last
Yeah,
couple of conversations we have, but I'm all about fun. Like I like having fun. If we're gonna spend X amount of hours together doing this, like we got to find a level of fun because I do believe that people kind of vibe off your own energy. And in this industry, I mean, just in sales in general, like you got to have something in your personality, in your attitude, in your tonality that just shows like, man, I'm in this, right? Like I believe in this. So what part of what we do is fun? Like, I mean, for me, it's the culture, it's the people,
yeah.
it's just having a good time. um, you know, Waking up every day saying, hey, like the one thing I can control is my attitude and the energy that I can bring to the office. So what part do you enjoy just outside of maybe the sales part, but what do you enjoy about doing this every day?
I love that we actually have a team. So we're on separate teams, even though we catch up and talk about these things. But we're in the same office, physical office, and you know, uh, I consider my team kind of my lab, where if I want to try something, they're willing to do it. And let's go. And even though I mean I'm not really their manager, but they're always up for, hey, let's go try this tactic, and when we go out canvassing. And that's one aspect I enjoy. And we went out the other day and I got all sweaty because it's like 100 degrees outside, but it was fun, right? Earlier, you talked about things like working on tonality. It's funny how a lot of people talk about tonality. If you're fabricating tonality, you're not going to be authentic and natural. But it works on the phone. I'm not a phone person, right? But a lot of that advice is probably meant for SDRs, BDRs. We're advisors. We're called advisors, but we're probably more, account execs, right? And so that, all that advice they give you, I mean, that's like a one size fits all methodology, right? When you
Yeah.
watch these, like, I watch a lot of YouTube podcasts on sales. Some of it's good, some of it's like, just repetitive, that same stuff that everyone says, right? And I think what we just talked about, like, you got to lean into who you are, right? That works the best. And who's, there's no one out there. I mean, you could probably find someone who focuses on the things that you're good at, but it's all things come into play. Your communication style, right? Your personality, your experiences, what works for you. Because for me, I can't just pick up the phone and automatically have the right tonality and have whatever, XYZ things that these sales gurus tell you about, I could, dude, I'm in my 40s, right? Like it's going to be hard for me to change who I am, right? So I got to
Yeah.
lean into what works.
And I think tonality, a lot of it is not just, to your point, to not just be not someone who's authentic and things of that sort. I think tonality is just being present, right, in the conversation. And a lot of times that's really where the tonality for me at least comes in. I don't want to be like, oh, look at me, because that's not who I am either. But it's just I think it comes across on the other line, or even if you're meeting with someone like, hey, I'm here to listen and I'm here to genuinely help you and
Yeah.
find common ground and see if there's something that we can actually do that's going to better your life, your people's lives and things of that sort. And I think that
Yeah.
comes across in tonality.
There's actually a guy. He does a lot of YouTube shorts. I'm sure he has a channel, but it's always on my feed. He's like a Korean dude, David Choi, and he does real estate, but it's he owns a portfolio, and he said something to the effect of when you're talking to someone on the phone, match their level of excitement or their tone, right?
Yeah,
I think that's great advice because, like if you're sitting there, you're kind of like speaking monotone, and I'm really excited. I don't think that all works. Also, on the other hand, like a lot of people say, hey, you should always have this monotone, like t tone when you're talking on the phone, prospecting. My go-to is when I'm calling, I want to sound like I'm smiling and happy because I love what I do, right? Because I
yeah,
truly believe in what I do. But sometimes I realize that's not the right approach because someone's like in a different, mindset, right? And so I want to be myself on a call, but at the same time, I've learned to kind of meet people where they are. So it's more about the person you're talking to, not about yourself.
yeah,
But at the same time, be yourself if you understand what I'm
yeah.
trying to say. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, look, man, I appreciate you sharing some of those insights. I think I want everybody to know that, we've been talking about a lot of different subjects these last couple of conversations we had. And I think one of the things that we're going to do that's going to be a little more exciting is that we're going to show people actually a day in the life of what we do, right? And we're going to kind of
We
go,
are. That's right.
we
You
are.
wanted to do that.
Yeah, look, let's get out of
That's a scary
this
proposition.
this zone and actually show what we actually do and put it kind of to practice so people can see this is a
I
day in the
mean,
life of an outside salesperson
yeah.
and
Well,
see if
maybe we can get permission to record a Zoom and ask if we can share it. I'm talking about when we have a discovery call with a prospect. So I don't think we should be doing that without permission, obviously,
no, I'm saying when we're going out, just if we're canvassing or if we're just doing things that in our day to day,
Sure.
and kind of
Yeah.
outline this is what we
Speaking,
do
speaking of
from
day to day,
start
I've
to
got a discovery call in 10 minutes and
all
sorry
right,
to
man.
cut it
Well,
short, but I appreciate it,
good
dude.
luck.
We'll get back on next week. All right.
Absolutely, man.
Have a good one.
You too.